Hey y'all, really quickly, spread the word, send this everyone you know to our six old faithful subscribers. Make your family subscribe. Just turn off notifications. We're trying to change platforms to YouTube Live. We want to do it live because we're a little bit over the fakeness of AI. And we want you guys to see us fail in real time and, just face plant like we normally do. It's cool. We have a barrier to entry though, and that is 50 subscribers on our YouTube channel. We're at 35. Send, share, just click. Link will be in show notes. Thank you kindly.
Hi,
Hey,
Liz.
Rachel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How was the
Oh,
how was the gorge?
oh my God. Incredible. I can't believe I haven't been going for years. Of course, that probably wouldn't have been a possibility years ago, but oh my God, it was so much fun.
So
Amazing.
I explained it a little bit last week, and I just said, it's a bunch of girls and they're really cool humans and blah blah blah. But like, tell us about what that like the whole thing, like what
Well,
you
when
thought.
we got there, we were immediately greeted with shots of Jaeger, which I literally have never been a huge Jaeger fan, so that was hilarious. But seriously, the most like um amazing women and accepting and inclusive, and I never felt like out of place there. Even though all these girls know each other and they've known each other for years, and um they literally just like brought me right into the group and I felt right at home. And oh my God, it was incredible. The music was amazing, the camp was amazing, everything was 10 times better than I thought it was going to be. It was just awesome. um I didn't when you go into a new situation with new people, you're always a little bit uh, you've got a little bit of like anxiety or whatever. But that was immediately dissipated as soon as I got there. And I mean, I felt right at home. It was just fantastic. So they were amazing, amazing people. So,
So, and I have to add to that just a little anecdotal situation that's hysterical, I think. So we got to the venue first night, and so our camp is just outside of the venue, and then the venue buses us to the campsite buses us to the venue, and it's only a like 5 minute little drive. But they don't want you walking, it's very much rural country out there, and there's a lot of traffic and stuff. So anyway, we get there and Liz did like the carnal like sin, and as soon as we get there she's like, I gotta pee, and I'm like, no you don't. So we start walking in, and there wasn't a line actually the first night, which was really nice, so we just zipped right in. And basically the venue, it's an amphitheater, right? So it's set on this massive hillside overlooking the gorge. The gorge looks like a mini rural gorge, right? And the Columbia River runs through the back of it, in that gorge, and then the stage is set as a forward drop, right, to that huge gorgeous backdrop. So she starts saying, I gotta pee, and I'm like, no you don't. So I'm like, okay, just do this, just get to the top of the hill. That's all I told her, and just check it out once, and then we could go. I'll show you where the honey buckets are after. We get to the top of the hill, Liz's jaw drops, and she never went pee that whole night. It's true, you never went. I was like, yeah, okay, she's fine. Because once you sit down and you just soak it all in, like it's overwhelming, and you just kind of
it is
forget.
overwhelming.
You just
I
forget
think that's a
everything
good word.
else. Yeah. It is just unspeakably gorgeous. And
Yeah.
it's really hard. I've said this for years. It's really hard to just describe and explain how awesome it is unless you do it. Yeah. And I was
Yeah.
like, You got to come do
I
it.
also think that of Dave Matthews, so I'm like familiar with some of his music. Definitely was not familiar with all of his music, but holy crap, he puts on a show.
Yeah.
Like literally the musicians, the singing, like the whole 9 yards. It's just incredible. Um, it was definitely an amazing experience for sure.
Yeah. Well, and
So
it's one thing that Dave is known for is that his live shows are always, he never made his living on his CDs and records, and a lot of people have heard of him or learned about him from like radio, streaming, digital.
like his most popular songs for
His
sure.
most popular songs, but
Sure.
the experience of him is live.
Yeah.
That is his thing. And then the other thing I'll say about that is he plays very much a different show at the Gorge than he does anywhere else. So it's just a really special experience. Anyway, so Liz was telling me, and we were cracking up about this after our last podcast, that we really haven't given anyone any survival tips. So
right, that's what our podcast is supposed to be about, like definitely stories of, trauma drama, but then also sharing how we got through and survived these things, and maybe something that you can apply to your daily,
right,
something that might be helpful.
right.
I mean, our book is all about definitely giving you all the gory details, but then showing you that we can move past it and we can live with the trauma and still be okay and still survive and still function in
Thrive.
the real world, outside of the cult.
Yeah. But we thought today might be, and it is Barbie summer, right? That we might talk about like the women, like sort of that experience. It was heavily female at the group this year. We often have a couple more guys, but there was a few that couldn't come this year. So it was heavy women. I think there were only 3 guys in camp, really.
Yeah.
And then the rest were female. So the ratio was like 3 to 1 there.
Sure.
And actually it could have been 5 to 1. So we thought we'd talk about like how important it is to have those female connections for us, especially as growing up, we didn't have any really secular female models to follow, right? So we were destined in the cult to be barefoot and pregnant and praise the good Lord Jesus, and we're expected to be subservient to men, that very Old Testament view of a hierarchical structure where the female gender is subservient to the male, and that the male is the absolute power and authority in all areas of life, like personal, religious, outside, family, everything. So I thought it would be interesting to sort of talk about the women at the Gorge, and we don't need to name names since they're not consenting to us talking about them with their names. However, I think we could talk about them and in terms of in general, and then also about how like our female relationships or role models have been or haven't been there for us, and how we've sort of figured that stuff out on our own, like how to be a female in a world where we really didn't get any technically good role models to follow.
There was no powerful women. There was no women accomplishing anything. There was no women that were in a position of leadership. It was always male.
Well, here's an example. My only heroes growing up, female wise, and this dates us again, were Amelia Earhart and Annie Oakley. And both of them were badass tomboys.
Sure, that was in books.
But those were, they were all like characters who we'd never met before. And they were, eons older than us, even at the time. And
Mhm.
that was literally the only ones that I was like, oh, I can see myself doing something like that, right? Instead of, wearing an apron and hanging over the stove all day. So,
Right.
I just don't think we had any.
No. I mean, the closest thing to leadership would be the cult leader's wife. But yet all she did was tell you how you were supposed to serve your man, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. I do think there's something wrong with it when you become a lesser person for doing that. I think, there's nothing wrong with being a good wife or being a great mother. Um, but it doesn't diminish you as a person. And that's what it did in the cult. And that's what, you were the inferior. And I think marriage should be an equal partnership. Um, I when I went into my marriage, I was married in the cult, and so was of that mindset in some degree, but at the same time, I was like, I felt like I needed a voice too, and I needed stuff. And so as we were married, and we had some issues over it, you know, as we were growing and changing, because as soon as we left the cult, I mean, life was changed. Um, and you still have those ideals, and Randy wanted me to stay home and be with the kids, and that was what you did in the cult. That's what his mom did. She wasn't even in a cult, but that's what his mom did. That's like an older generation thing, I think, for a lot of women. But for me, I felt like I needed to not be that way. And because I wanted my own things, and I wanted to do the same thing. So now, I mean, as my kids were growing up, we were equal in the fact that
I think
I
Randy,
wasn't the only one
yeah, I think
cleaning, cooking, all of that. We split it. We had to do things together, not just me doing everything and him just working a normal job,
right. Well, one
Um,
thing you and Randy were always really good at, and I think that you had I mean, it took a hard road to hoe to figure it out. But one thing
yeah.
that you
Oh
both
yeah.
have always done really good is negotiate and at
Hmm.
least have communication open
Yeah,
to where you can be heard and there are considerations on both sides, which I think is like why you've been together this long, because you really did do a complete 180 in terms of like
yeah,
lifestyle and raising a family and right negotiating the way that your relationship is together. And I've
sure.
always admired that about you, because I know it wasn't easy, but it
Nope.
also is really admirable, like that you guys were able to do that, because that's
Well, it's
really
mainly
rare.
communication, I think. And there were some tough conversations, don't get me wrong. Like, it wasn't always easy. I used to be a crier every time I would get upset or something would bug me. I would just start bawling. And then Randy's like, what the fuck am I doing with this woman? You know what I mean? So, like, my response emotionally would always be to cry. I'm not that way anymore. And it's not because I've hardened, it's just because I know how to get my point across without losing my shit, you know? And so I think that communication is probably the only way we have stayed together. I mean, we did have a split for, a year and a half. And I think after that is when we both decided that um, we have to communicate a million times better. Don't get angry. If you get angry, somebody leaves the room, you quit talking. I mean, I know that was one of our things that we decided. I mean, we really don't fight anymore. Um, we might snap at each other, but then we're like, okay, pull yourself back to reality. Because you have to be able to talk about the hard things. And if you can't, then you're never going to make it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
or someone's going to be unhappy.
you and I are really good at that too. And I don't think we
Uh-huh.
always were, but um
No,
Liz and I
definitely
can
not me.
Liz and I can have like drop dead, like screaming, yelling arguments. And
Uh-huh.
then 2 seconds later, I'm like, do you want a coffee?
Well, and we're good to call each other out on shit.
Yes.
You know, I
And
mean,
and
we
I
don't have a problem with that.
that is something that I so appreciate about you. And because I'm like, you're absolutely right. I was being an absolute dickhead right there,
Right.
and then I can say, okay, I acknowledge that and I'm sorry, and
hmm
I will do better.
Yeah. Well,
And
you have to know your audience too when you're calling somebody out on something.
true.
Because I do know you and I know that you don't have ill intentions, you know.
No, and
And
it's
so when something's bothering me, I can just say, "Hey, this happened. This wasn't right. We got to figure it out because it sucked, you know."
yeah.
Or whatever, but you have to be able to do that in any relationship, in my opinion.
So,
But
and
as
I
far as
think what we're talking about right now, though, and I'm just gonna like haul it in around to this
yeah, yeah,
whole idea of like survival.
yeah,
Part of that was like self-taught and self-experience learning,
hmm
meaning we really didn't like go to a ton of self-help books and try and
sure,
figure this out. It was kind of like fuck around and find out
yeah,
because we didn't really have any tools. And um I did do quite a bit of therapy after, some of it after the cult, some of it being required and some of it just on my own after. However, it wasn't as though they can teach you how to do that in therapy, right? You
right,
kind of have to do it to figure it out.
yeah,
And I think that because once we left the cult, we were isolated, really isolated from
oh
both
yeah,
our original community at the cult. You're completely excommunicated when you leave. And then also we weren't yet assimilated into a secular world. The secular
mm-mm.
world was a whole new world, brand new space for us
Yeah,
that we really had no idea how to navigate. And we also had no guidebook. And that is part of the reason for our book too, is how to figure out, you know,
when you leave something
when you
that's
lose a
so
community.
yeah, the community or you know the thing that's such a huge part of your life where you live, eat, sleep, breathe that shit. um what we'll explain to you, how we felt, what we experienced, and how we moved past it, and we moved past it, like I've said before, in different ways, Rachel and I
Sure.
both.
And um we also were, for the most part, for most of that time, separated geographically.
Yeah,
um
that's true.
So one of the things about this podcast, and it's hilarious, is like, well, this is why we've been chatting on the phone every day for 20 years, is because we've basically been geographically annexed to different parts of the United States. And the only way for us to actually really honestly therapeutically work some of this out and stay close, right, and be each
hmm
other's cheerleaders, and then also each other's like sounding boards for, hey, what the fuck am I going to do in this situation, right,
Right.
has been to stay close contact. Because when you are surviving on your own without a guidebook, without a tool, right, to help you through something that really nobody else has been through. And even
Yep.
when Liz and I talk about our experiences in the book, we were in the same room having the same set of circumstances happen, but we both experienced them very different ways.
Yeah.
So it is, but at least there's a small portion of that we share very much deeply, so that has sort of that little bit of commonality of traumatic experience has helped us to stay close, and then also to just build a relationship that we absolutely completely defined on our own, that we are able to navigate things, but with an absolute trust and right, and
Yeah.
affection and deep love, that we know, I can call you out, you can call me out, but we have that trust layer built in, where you have to be each other's mirror and go, here's what you're doing or whatever. And that is something that we learned, right? And it's not that is part of the book, though. Like, that is, but
Yeah. I mean,
we
it's baby
we
steps.
we had no guidebook,
Yeah, we
right?
did not. No.
We didn't know anything. We really had no clue what to do. when we started writing this book, that was our main goal. Still is.
Yep.
Someone who's there in the same situations, or maybe they just got out. Maybe they're still in a cult. Maybe they have, and there's cults everywhere, you know.
Yeah, it's different types of cults, different types of, you know, communities you're a part of that you feel like trapped, you know. I mean, maybe it's your family.
Quite possibly toxic
I mean,
family
honestly,
relationships.
a toxic relationship, whatever. It can be relatable to so many things because, but you do feel very alone. There's no, I mean, our role models were men, and that is not relatable to a female at all. And so we definitely had to figure out, and I think when we were younger, we had a little bit of that, leadership type stuff in us still, because, you know, my mom, like I said, we grew up so poor. I had the drive to make things better, and so I worked, you know, I found odd jobs. Rachel had a leadership ability in mainly, like, you know, going off the grid and doing something we weren't supposed to, or experimenting with, you know, let's push the boundaries here, let's do this, you know. So we had it in us. It just was not something that we had any examples of or role models, and it's not something that
don't give away the whole book
we
here,
were
Liz.
taught.
Don't give away I said don't give away the whole book here. But
no, I'm not.
What you're getting at is that the circumstances of our growing up, and everyone's going to say this, created who we are today. Those circumstances were not ideal.
Right.
and it's kind of the diamond through the fire, or the silver, the purification of something that is valuable based on those experiences. Our book tells you what those experiences were. And that is an indicator of, you know, purification through fire, if you want to call it that. But not being burned is sort of our overarching goal. Is like, well, yeah, we went through it, but we're still alive. We're still standing. I'm still standing.
We are still standing. Yes. Some days,
then Liz,
you got to use the people around you to help you.
Yeah. Either you step on them or they hold you up.
Yep.
But anyway, bringing this around to the women at the gorge, right? So, again, I had the same experience you did, Liz, when I went there the first time. I was just like, who are these women, and why haven't I known them my entire life? Because I felt like I got gypped somehow. Like, right? I was like, where have you been? And why haven't you been here telling me what to do? Or, you know, hanging out with me and commiserating like you and I do, you know, me and my sister. But, and I forget, I think it was the second night, I was just looking around and I was like, have you ever met any like group of women this awesome? And not only are they awesome as a group, but I'm like, each one individually is kind of a badass on their own. And and I think badassery, you know, female bosses, girl bossing always attracts girl bosses. And it is like an attraction, a magnetism that just brings good people together, with good intentions, and who also just, you know, do your own shit, clap for yourself, you know, clap your own hands on your back, because it's just like nobody else is going to do it for you. And all these women are kind of like that. And that is like one of the really refreshing things. It's like, well, we all came from different backgrounds, different types of trauma, different, you know, upbringing.
I think your favorite or your most used comment the whole year is when someone would say, remember when blah, 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 blah. And you're like, excuse me, cultural hole from being in a cult. Like, I didn't see that, or I didn't hear that.
Oh, I do that all the time though. I'm like, sorry, I have there's a giant gap between 1979 and 1997, at which point it's a crapshoot. It's like I don't know, maybe 20% chance I might have heard of it, but that was probably through other cultural references after that time period.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah,
Oh.
anyway, it was, I just thought, you know, one of the things that we need to share is like, we didn't have female examples growing up. We fucked around and found out on our own. And, but that, you know, but the female, our relationship, our sisterhood is a big, huge part of that, because it was kind of like, well, I don't know what to do here. And, you know, I'm having a hard time with this. And then we talked it out, you know, we figured it out, basically with not a whole lot of guidance from really any other participants. And that was a big part of it. I think
you have to look for them, though, you know, look for role models, look for people. Yes, you figure it out eventually, but if you see someone that is, you know, a strong female, go, what the heck did she do to get there? And how did she get there? And why do people respect her? Or, you know, why is she, and not necessarily like a celebrity. I'm talking about women who actually like
every day
run their
day.
business, or, you know, are in charge of something, or are, you know, people look up to them because they've accomplished something, you know, and then go, what did they do? And take something they did and apply it to you, you know.
Well, and there's different character traits that make all these, you know, figures different. Some are good at communication, some are great at marketing, some are good at interpersonal relationships, some are good at finances, right? Some are good at fitness and lifestyle. I mean, pick a category, but it's like, well, if you're excelling, you know, can I emulate that? Or how do I get, you know, whatever they're doing, a little piece of that inside of my life? And you know, what little things can I do to change and then become a little bit more aware of that? And that's a constant learning cycle. And I think that that's one of the things that you and I, we were so smart, as if we're not now. I can't believe I just said that. We are so smart. Even growing up, we excelled academically, even in the crappiest education system on the planet Earth. However, you and I did really good.
I don't know if it's the crappiest. I think it's pretty
however, we excelled, and part of that was because we had a desire to learn. We wanted to know more. We were curious. And so we just we read a ton of books. And when we got out of the cult, that didn't stop. That's a character trait. That is a hunger for learning, for knowing, for doing, for being more or better every single day. And that's what I say when I say we went through the fire, but we're still not burned. We're right. You just got to keep plugging along. I mean, the options are endless. You can just, you know, not do that and just be a bump on a log, you know, and do nothing. But honestly, where's the fun in that?
Right. And also how unfulfilling.
Yes, that's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Like I like a sense of accomplishment is like such a big thing for me. You want to do something where you're like, oh my gosh, I did that, you know? And I think I've always probably been that way, you know, and having goals, and goals is huge.
Yes.
You know, where do you want to be in 10 years? You know, where do you want to be tomorrow?
Well, and that's, you know, person dependent too. But anyway, I think we should wrap this up, only because I have a limited time this morning. I have so many clients out sick right now, and I'm like, don't you come in, you better not. If you're sick, I'm like, I
literally, the girl that does my massage, she still has a text that goes out every time, and it says, if you have any kind of fever, or if you're experiencing any kind of symptoms, please do not come and let me know.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
Let me know now, because
I do the same thing.
I don't want you in my space if you're sick.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
And it's not just, I do the same thing. It's not for me either. I have lots of clients with comorbidities.
Well, sure, you don't want to get any other people that you're dealing with sick. Absolutely. I'm like, I will not be mad if you cancel because you're sick.
No, 100%.
I will miss the money, but I will not be sad.
Yeah. Have we learned nothing from COVID? Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, well, I think we did a good job.
Well, hopefully, I hope somebody got something out of that. I mean, we do want to be helpful with this podcast, but also, like I said, just share stories and our personal experiences, and hopefully something will stick with you and maybe help a little bit. I don't know.
You do have cows. Tell
Funny story before we go.
Yes, real quick. Real quick.
Okay, so
Do you want to tell it?
yeah, I'm talking about I was talking about coffee creamer because we were fixing
Where
coffee.
where were we?
Okay, we were at the gorge, right? I mean, it wasn't early in the morning. Rachel and I were up every day at like 5 a.m., 5:30. Everyone else got up around 8:39. Anyway, we were going for coffee, and we had bought some creamer, like the liquid creamer that you put in coffee. So anyway, we went and bought, or I was putting coffee creamer in my cup, and I was talking about how expensive the freaking creamer is here. Because it's like $8. And she's like, $8? This girl said, $8. And I said, yeah. I was like, it's freaking expensive. I'm like, it's gone through the roof. And she goes, you have cows? As if she was like, so shocked that
In Oklahoma.
It's so expensive because we do have cows.
You have she was like, I'm sure you have cows. Like she was offended by it. She was like, why is sugar-free French vanilla coffee creamer $8 in Oklahoma? Like, right. You have cows. Like, apparently they're not the French kind. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
that one still slaps. It's pretty good.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
we will see you next week, or
yep.
you'll hear us next week.
Stay tuned for our sponsor codes.
Oh yeah, always.
All right. Bye.
In 1998, I was the whistleblower in a massive pedophilia case involving the Independent Fundamental Baptist Church, Cornerstone Baptist Church in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was the lead key witness in a case that took down an entire network of child abusers. Charles D. Miller was sent to prison, and this was prior to the statute of limitations law being lifted in Colorado. In fact, shortly thereafter it was lifted, and he would have gotten life in prison. My sister and I wrote a book about what it was like growing up in the cult. We're looking for publishers. We are going to self-publish, but we need your help. If you know of anyone, hit us up. Contact info is in the show notes. Thank you kindly.